Joining us now at the meetings of the International Monetary Fund is a finance minister for one of the world's great financial and political successes. That, of course, is Norway. Siv Jensen is with us, their Minister of Finance, and one of the great joys of speaking to the minister is she is entrenched in Norwegian domestic politics as well. What is it like with your political heritage to go over to being a Minister of Finance? Was that an abrupt shift?
No, not really, but for my party it was, because we did not have any experience with being a governing party. But now we have been in government for 4.5 years, and it works very well.
And you had a shock of the oil price coming down. What was it like, not from 100 to 80, but what was it like the day Brent crude went from 40 down to 29? What was the mood like in Norway?
Well, it seriously affected our economy. Unemployment rose, growth went down, people were severely affected, businesses were affected, investments were affected. So we set up several measures to meet that through fiscal policy, monetary policy did a job. We got some help from fluctuating currency that weakened, so it strengthened the cycle for our businesses. But
and trade helped out.
Trade helped out, definitely. Norway is a small open economy, and we very much depend on free and open markets.
Norway is also an economy where anybody in America with a child of a certain vintage basically goes at one point, I need to take Norwegian Air to Norway. Can I go for 3 weeks? I mean, everybody in America hears it constantly, and part of that is the magic and culture of Norway. Are you now threatened? Is that culture threatened by the trade discourse that you see from America?
Well, at least we are concerned with what is happening for the time being. We have to, if we take a step back and look at history, we do know that free trade, open markets, and staying away from protectionism has lifted so many people out of poverty. So it will not help us. And I think if we actually fail if we meet protectionism with more protectionism, because there will only be losers in this.
At the IMF, there's the Blue Book, the Green Book, the Red Book. Clearly the focus here is on fiscal. I'll get to that in a minute. But the real news is the Norwegian Central Bank is doing monetary experimentation in real time. You were at 2.5%, a booming oil economy, sovereign wealth fund challenges, and you lowered your inflation, your target rate, down to 2%. What did you learn in that exercise that you can tell other finance ministers?
Well, what we actually did was to bring our regulation at the same level as basically our trading partners. And we changed the regulation, but more towards how the Norwegian bank is actually operating on the monetary policy. So it's really not a change. It's adapting the regulation to as it is practiced.
Do you, and this is a loaded question, if you don't want to answer it, I understand it, but do you suggest that in the coming years, with reduced potential GDP, with a reduced economic growth, that other central banks and the Norwegian Central Bank will have to break that 2% barrier and bring the targets under 2%?
I think this is, our regulatory change is not really a change. It's bringing the regulations in accordance with how the Norwegian bank has conducted the monetary policy for many years now. And it's working very well. It's a forward-looking regime, which takes several aspects into consideration. And it has served us well, but the main reason for us having an inflation target at 2.5% was in a phase where we were to spend a lot of oil money into our economy. Now that phase is coming to an end, which means that we're getting a more normal fiscal situation.
My colleague Francine Leclerc demanded that I ask you this question. In her United Kingdom, there is the Norway solution. When you, as a grizzled political pro of Norway and the finance minister of the nation, hear people in Britain talk about the Norway solution for Brexit, how do you respond to that?
Well, I think we have followed that discussion, and I always I get these questions all the time, especially when I visit Britain. But they have said themselves that the Norwegian model is not a solution because it's our access to the internal market is in conflict with the reason behind Brexit. So I don't think it's in comparison, actually, but I think that the negotiations are important. We follow them closely. And we also need to find bilateral solutions with Britain as an important trading partner to Norway.
I have to ask about the tensions in northern Scandinavia with Russia. Now, the focus is, of course, on Finland, but with all that's going on, the day-to-day, forget about Syria and the Russian influence in Syria, explain to our global audience that geography of northern Norway, northern Sweden, northern Finland, and that tension, that ancient tension with Russia. Give us an update on that.
Well, you should actually ask the Minister of Foreign Affairs on this, but what I can say is that Norway we have a border to Russia, and we've had long-lasting both friendship but also tension between us for decades. But it's something that we have been accustomed to handling, and I think we will handle it also in the future.
Tell me about these meetings, so much tension, and I've been surprised by every international discussion redounds back to a $1 trillion deficit in the United States. If I look at the fiscal monitor, Vitor Gaspar of the IMF, there's a scatter dot chart, and everybody's over here, and your Norway's over here being best citizen on the planet with the luxury of oil and the unique aspects of Norway. How do you respond to the burgeoning deficits and debt in the United States?
Well, I don't think it's in my position to comment on that, but what I can say is that for Norway it's been a success that we have set aside the money that we have earned from oil and gas production in our sovereign
IMF leads with that. You stole the title. Vitor Gaspar stole the title from Norway. Saving for a rainy day is the first title of their fiscal monitor. That's Norway, right?
Yeah, but that's also because this is money that we earn from non-renewable energy production. And so we have set up a perspective for future generations as well. These are huge savings that should also come newer generations. And that's why we also plan on investing this money in growth-enhancing measures and investments. And I think we're doing quite well. The fund is growing. It's a huge sovereign fund. Well invested.
Can you give us the size of it roughly?
Oh, it's about 8,000 billion Norwegian kroners for the time being. But and it's growing, and it's well invested globally in companies all over the world, and doing quite well. It's open, and it's a very responsible fund.
What is the debate within the sovereign wealth community of Norway about what the actuarial assumption should be for that rainy day account? I mean, it moves around. When I first joined Bloomberg, the assumptions were 7-8%. I remember someone said, I just want to make 20% a year, and those have come down, obviously, and the Europeans have a more cautious and conservative tone than the Americans. Do you have in your mind the single-digit success that it would be for the Sovereign Wealth Fund?
Well,
4%, 5%?
What we do is we phase in the surplus of the fund every year, but not more than 3% is the target that we have set, and we have been way below, even in a situation where we have had a more expansionary fiscal policy to get out of the aftermaths of the falling oil prices. The fund is growing, and it's, as you said, we are setting aside for a rainy day, but we're also phasing the money in our budgets every year. But now at a lower speed than the years behind us, since our economy is picking up.
Very good. Finance Minister, thank you so much. Siv Jensen, the Finance Minister for Norway.